Hi, this is session 3 of Apigee Edge course for beginners. In this session, we will learn about how to generate access token using OAuth 2 policy. In order to request for access token from Apigee Edge, one of the mandatory fields we must provide with the request is grant type. So, what is a grant type? Grant types are methods through which application can gain access tokens and by which you grant limited access to a resources to another entity without exposing credentials. Is this statement slightly confusing you? If yes, don't worry, we will understand this with an example. Okay, let's assume that our application has two modules. Example, one is users and another one is products. Both of these entities can have functionalities like create user, create product, view user, view product, update user, and update product. Also, let's assume that our application is functioning based on two roles or scopes. One is guest and other is admin. Now, if we want to provide read-only access to the users whose role is guest, and on the other hand, if we want to provide both read and write access to admin users, then it is absolutely possible based on grant types and scopes. So this is about granting limited access. Next part in the statement was without exposing credentials. So what does it mean? It means, okay, let's consider you are a user and your role is guest. Now, if you have gained access token once by providing your credentials, then in order to access for functionalities like view users or view products, you need not to pass credentials on each and every subsequent request. With the valid access token, you can have access to those functionalities. Please note that you can access those functionalities until your access token gets expired. Once it gets expired, you can't access. Again, you need to get a new access token either by providing credentials or by refresh token concept. We will see this in action in the upcoming videos, but for now, let's understand that based on grant types, we can grant limited access. I hope now it is clear about granting limited access without exposing credentials. Alright, the OAuth 2 policy in Apigee Edge supports several grant types which allow different types of access. Below are the commonly used grant types. So that is client credentials, password, authorization code, refresh token, implicit, etc. In this session, we will use client credentials grant type and generate access token from Apigee Edge. In this grant type, an app sends its own credentials, that is client ID and client secret, to an endpoint on Apigee Edge that is set up to generate an access token. If credentials are valid, Edge returns an access token, else it throws error to the client app. Let's see the let's see this in action. Let's log into Apigee Edge UI. I've logged into Apigee Edge UI. Oops, it's logged out. Let us log in again. Log into Apigee Edge UI. Hang on a minute, my internet connection is a little bit slow. Oops. Okay, now navigate to API proxies. Here we'll have all the available proxies. If you could remember, this is the one which we have created in our previous video session. So we are going to use the same API proxy. Let's click on this proxy. And if you could see here, we have one proxy endpoints. Now in order to generate access token, we are going to create a different endpoint in the same API proxy. Let's go ahead and create it. So in order to create, let's navigate to develop tab. And here if you could see the proxy endpoint section. So this is the endpoint section. So since we are interested in creating new endpoint, let us add here. I'm going to name it as generate. Oops, okay. I'm going to name it as OAuth 2. Let's add. It will add the new endpoint. It has added now. So we'll have to do some changes here. Let us do that. So the virtual host has to be secure. Since we are generating access token, Apigee Edge will look for the request from HTTPS. So it has to be secure one. And the route name has to be no route, because we don't want Apigee Edge to call any other backend APIs. So the value has to be no route, and this is not required. One, yeah. So these are all the changes required in this endpoint. So in order to generate access token, we would need a policy. So we'll have to add policies here, and under policy section, click plus icon. In order to generate access tokens, we have to use OAuth 2 policy. So let's click OAuth 2, and we have a lot of other policies. We'll see all these policies as we progress through the course. But for now, we are interested in generating access token using client credentials grant type. So we'll have to use OAuth 2 policy here. Select that and name it as OAuth OAuth hyphen v2 hyphen generate access token. You can give any meaningful name you want. So the policy has created. Now we'll have to modify something here. So operation, we are going to do generate access token. So this is verify access token. So this operation will verify if we pass an access token. It will verify whether the access token is valid or not. That we will see in the next session. But for now, we are interested in generating access token. So I'm going to change this operation as generate access token. Generate access token, and we will have to specify the grant type. So in order to do that, under supported grant types, specify a grant type. Grant type, and we are going to use client credentials. So specify client credentials grant type, and we'll have to say edge from where we pass client credentials grant type from the request. So we'll have to specify that. So let's specify that here, grant type. So we can pass it from query param. So I'm going to give it as request dot query param dot grant type. So this means it will look grant type value from the query param. So from the request, we'll have to provide grant type in the query param. So that is the change we required in this policy. So in order to generate the access token, we'll have to add this policy in our flow. Let's go ahead here, and I'm going to add a flow here. Let's add a flow, name it as generate access token. So description you can give anything you want, and condition type we are going to use path and verbs. So we can specify the path to our endpoint. So I'm going to specify access underscore token, and verb has to be post, and optional target URL we need not to specify anything. So let's add it, and if you could see, it has added the flow, generate access token flow. If our endpoint matches with the verb post and the path access underscore token, this flow will get executed. So when this flow gets executed, we'll have to generate access token. So we'll have to add this policy here. So in order to do that, in the request tag, add a step, and inside a step tag, add name and specify the name of the policy. So our policy name is this one. So copy this and add it here. So this is called attaching a policy in the flow. So we have attached OAuth to generate access token policy in our generate access token flow. So with these changes, let's go ahead and save our proxy as a new revision. Okay, after doing this, if you could navigate to overview tab, you could see another endpoint is added, which we have added now, that is OAuth 2. And if you could see, it does not have base path, so we'll have to specify base path. Let's go ahead and add the base path to that. So here we'll have to add the base path. I'm going to add it as slash OAuth slash OAuth slash OAuth 2 slash v1, and save the changes. And before saving the change, let's also have the consistent base path for default endpoint as well. With these changes, let's click save, and deploy the latest version, deploy it in test environment, and latest revision is deployed. And now navigate it to overview tab. If you could see, we have got two endpoints and proper base path with proper base path. And here if you could see our endpoint. So this is the auth endpoint which we have created. Now with this endpoint, let's try to invoke and let's see what happens. So our endpoint is slash access token, and our verb is post. Let's post it and see what happens. If you could see, we are getting an error stating that invalid client identifier is required. So Apigee Edge doesn't know whether our app is registered or not. So in order to resolve this issue, we'll have to register our app within Apigee Edge. So in order to do that, let's navigate to Publish tab and click on Developers. Add a developer. I'm going to name it as OAuth 2 developer. OAuth 2 developer username and mail ID. Let's create, and after creating developers, we'll have to create products. So let's navigate to API products, add new API product. I'm going to name it as OAuth2 product. Going to give the same name for a display name as well. So select environments both prod and test. Access select public one so that it is visible to any registered developer during app registration. And here we'll have to add a proxy. So we'll have to add our proxy, which is API proxy demo. And here if you want to add more than one proxy within this product, you can add, which is called bundling the proxy inside the product. So I'm going to add only one proxy for now. Let's add it. With these changes, let's save. Let's navigate to apps tab now. We'll have to register our app. Let's navigate to apps tab in order to create our app. Create new app. So I'm going to name it as OAuth 2 app. So select developer and we'll have to select the developer which we have created now. We have created this OAuth 2 developer now. So select the developer and we'll have to add the product over here. So add the product which we have created now. So with these changes, create the app. This will give us client ID and client secret. With this client ID and client secret only, we will be able to generate access token. So we'll have to pass this client ID and client secret in order to be able to generate access token from Apigee successfully. So how do we have to do that? Let's see that in action. So first of all, we'll have to pass the grant type to our edge. So I'm going to pass grant type here as client credentials, and in order to pass client ID and client secret, we have two ways. Either we can select body tag and we can pass as from URL encoded here. So let's pass client ID and client secret here at the first option, and we'll see what is the second option. So I'm going to select client underscore ID, and so key is the client ID. I'm going to select this and provide the value here. We'll have to provide client secret as well. So secret is this one. So this is client secret. So we'll have to pass here. And with these changes, let's hit and see what happens. Here we go. It has created access token for us. If you could see the access token, application name, and token type, we are a token, and our product name, etc. So we have created access token using client credentials. So there is another way to pass this client ID and client secret. So Apigee Edge recommends it to pass as base 64 encoded one. So we can encode this client ID and client secret with colon, and we can pass it as authorization header. Let's see how to do that. In order to encode it, let's base 64 encoder. You can have a lot of websites to encode it. So first we'll have to give the client ID and client ID colon client secret. With these changes, let's encode it, and here we'll have encoded value and pass that encoded value as authorization header. Authorization will have to happen basic with a value. So I'm going to disable this value from here, and now we are passing this as authorization header. Let's see whether we are getting the same response from Apigee. Here we go. We are getting the same response. So we have two ways to pass credentials to Edge. Either we can pass by form URL encoded as client ID and client secret, or we can pass in authorization headers by encoding client ID and client secret with colon. Okay, in the next video, we will see how to verify access token. That's it in this video, and thanks for watching. Have a great day.